Rightio. Welcome everyone to Simon to talk through for digital innovation. Look, firstly, we've had a disrupted couple of weeks for the country, and so if you do need some support, with this assignment, with the course, please, reach out to us. Hopefully, everyone will watch this recording in the next few days, and we'll try and get the recording up tonight or tomorrow, assuming the LOR thing plays nicely. So shouldn't be a late night tonight. We'll do similar to assignment one, go through some of the resources, and then I just want to pick on a couple of sections because I did mark for this assignment last time we ran this course, and there was a couple of areas that that I think the coursework is probably sort of too broad actually. So to try and get a bit more specific hints and tips sort of for those couple of sections. Rightio. So first things first, we'll go to the course site. So in the assessment section, which you're all across by now, you'll have seen the briefing paper went up on Tuesday, and the marking criteria as well was up there previously. You've already had the assignment description because it was the same as assignment one, but we'll go to that one quickly. I did notice one error in the briefing paper, and so I've changed that version tonight. So the error was the link to the provisional marking criteria was to the marking criteria for assignment one, not for assignment two. So sure you would have worked that out, but just in case, I have put a new version up there. So in assignment two, this is the assessment description. We're carrying on from the work we did in assignment one. So in assignment one, we did you proposed a proof of concept for something linked to AI in an insurer. And, basically from assignment two, we picked that up from the point where our proof of concept's gone well. And we've tested what we needed to test. And now we're proposing, a larger project in that organization. We're doing a fair bit more work in this. In some ways, we've now covered a lot more of the course, and we're picking up quite a few of the tools that we've used in this course in this assignment, and I'll point you towards those as we go through. So 35% and due on the 27th. So, we can, as I say, we're running with the same background, so the same organization. You're using the same organization you've done your research in, and you've done your same AI that you've done, a technology that you've done your research in as well. So we're going from that point. We need to just touch on that in a background. We've got a review using some of the tools from the course, the company strategy and the strategic alignment of this initiative. And then we've got a few sections. Firstly, just the initiative definition about the initiative, executive brief, minimal viable product features, and I'll touch on MVP just quickly. While we've done a proof of concept, and that proof of concept may well have looked quite a lot like an MVP, we're now trying to launch something that can add value to customers. So something that we can add value to the business with, or to customers with. And we're trying to, in digital innovation, we work using agile methodologies. And so therefore, we're trying to release early and release often. We're trying to get something in the hands of our customers and our business, start receiving some benefit from that, start growing some customers from that, and then progressively add more and more to that. And the way we do that, where we'll show that, is a bit of thinking about what the features are that are going to come later, and then demonstrate that on some kind of roadmap. And this is a section that I think can be confusing, because if you Google this, you get everything under the sun, and we only touch on it really briefly in the course. So I've got another couple of points for you on that one. We'll come back to it at the end. Next, we're talking about the feasibility of this initiative. And so you'll remember this. We have the value proposition canvas, and then the business model or lean canvas. Those are probably one of the two you choose, and we don't mind which one. If you have gone for a not-for-profit, which is unlikely, then in that case, you'd go for the mission model canvas instead. Then talking about the viability of the initiative. So, financially, does this make sense? Business model canvas about, so, you touch on some of these benefits and costs in the canvas, and we're just expecting you to do a bit more analysis on those and bring those out in a bit more detail when we start talking about the viability. And then we're going to do a bit of work on our customer impact. So, these innovative ideas, this agile ways of working, are always engaging with our customers. We use methodologies like we covered a couple of weeks ago in design thinking to do that. And some of the tools that we use in that, we're going to use in our assignment. So, and that's customer journey mapping. And again, this is really broad when you start looking. So we've put another couple of resources up on the course site as well, but I've got a couple of slides I want to go through here too. Finally, a bit more about the technology impact, the risk assessment, and some recommendations and conclusions. That we've just gone through really echoes what's in the marking criteria, which is usual, is up on the course site. So it actually follows exactly the same structure as that. So no surprises. There's really good alignment between the marking criteria, the discussion paper, and then also the briefing paper, which is up on the course site. So like we did in assignment 1, we've got a few other resources up the top. I'm not going to go through those tonight because we went through them in a bit more detail last time, but I would recommend you have a look at those if you haven't already. Apart from that, we've just tried to structure that up into assignment and point you towards some of the other resources, another coursework that you might want to be thinking about. So for example, some of the modules or some of these tools are relevant. I've given you a few other bits of food for thought through this briefing paper as well. So that's there for you now. So again, because it mirrors what's in the other one, and because it mirrors what was in assignment 1, we won't spend a lot of time going through that. What we will do is jump over to just a few slides, just to talk through these couple of things, because I think we need to do just a bit more to just to give something a bit more actionable. So customer journey mapping, there's another PDF up on the course site, and I'm conscious that we did miss a session, so we will try and get this recording up separately and in full. But I want to touch on this with the assignment, because even with that last time round, this was a tough section. So we're looking to do this sort of a current state and a future state, and that'll depend a bit on what you've chosen for your initiative. But at a basic level, from a customer journey mapping perspective, there's a few critical factors to doing it well. So firstly, obviously we need to pick the target, which we've done here. So we'll have because of the initiative we've chosen, some idea of the business process or such that we're targeting for the customer journey map. Normally when you're doing this in organization, you actually do it for multiple personas. We're not expecting that. What we need to do is pick a persona, a key user type that we'll have, and just probably focus down one channel or set of channels because of that persona. Obviously we don't have the time, we don't have the word count, to take on a really broad process through a lot of channels and through a lot of lenses of different users. So just pick one key type of user that we'll see as a result, a customer as a result of the AI project we've selected. We define the stages of that customer journey. That usually looks a fair bit like the business process, but just a couple of high-level stages that we use for the customer journey map. We need to understand the goal of the customer when they engage with the organization. And we'll just do a simple example. It's linked to assurance around processing a claim. The customer's got a goal, and really that's what kicks off the journey, and that's what we need to resolve by the end of the customer journey. And normally, as I say, if you're doing it for other personas, if you're doing current state and future state, then obviously you need to repeat this. So if you look at that, a simple way, as I say, if you go looking, there's heaps of resources on this, including in the course, but a simple way of looking at it, get your process stages across the top, the journey stages across the top, and there should be a reasonably high level, so you shouldn't have heaps. Think about the goal, obviously of the whole journey, because that's what we want to get to by the end. But then you can think about it on a per stage basis. So when we're entering this stage of the journey, what is the goal? What is on the customer's mind? What are they worried about, or what are they feeling as they start engaging in the organization? And then by doing that, particularly with your future state one, we want to therefore call out some of the considerations or impacts we've had in the project, or because of this. So look, didn't want to go all the way through, because this is actually one that's quite common for a lot of people's projects that they've sort of pitched. So I didn't want to do the whole thing and give it all away, but this is the sort of food for thought. You don't have to structure it like this by any means. But we do customer journey mapping. That's what we're interested in. What are the stages? How are we engaging? The concerns and feelings of the customer, and then therefore what are we doing from a project perspective? That lets you somewhere bring those two things together, the current state and the future state, because you can talk about the differences, down through that last section. The other thing that it's worth keeping in mind from a customer journey mapping perspective is you start looking at ways of putting this together. Quite often, in addition to this sort of thing, you also see some movement across channels. So quite often people take their journey map from a perspective of how at that point is the customer engaging with the organization. So we start on the website, and we're doing research, and then we apply for a loan, and we do that firstly on our mobile phone, and then we find halfway through it's a bit more complicated, so we decide to go over and book an appointment where we go into a branch. The lender in the branch to do the documentation. The verification happens back on a telephone as someone calls us back to check things. So that's not uncommon, and if it makes sense to call that out, absolutely go for it. It's very common, I will say, to see a channel row through those journey maps as well. Whether that's useful or not will really depend on the type of project that you're going for in the assignment. This is a guide. We're not looking for any looks in particular. This is about using some of the thinking from design thinking, from human-centered design, to look at our initiative from the customer lens, in addition to from the business lens that we do through some other tools in the coursework. So that's customer journey mapping. Link in there, Customer Experience Institute, CXL Institute, has got quite a number of articles on this, to be honest with you. This one's pretty good. We've also put this additional resource up on the study desk, which you can access, which gives a bit of a link actually between the business model canvas down to design and then customer journey mapping. You can see down here actually we do this one. This one is done across the phases, and so again, it's not very useful. So no problem as well if you want to do that. But I will say that in the real world, we do tend to, move away from this pretty fixed view of channel into something that's a bit more story-like, or something that tells the story a bit more and shows that we've done that thinking about the goal of the customer and the way the customer's feeling as they engage in the business process. Rightio. So that's customer journey mapping. I'll jump back over to my slides because there's one other section I just want to pick on briefly. Product road mapping, which you saw pop up in the early part of this assignment, I think in the assignment brief. So what we're touching on here in product road mapping, again, well, if you Google this, you'll get all sorts of things, a really confusing set of confusing set of a breadth of resources. There's no particular discipline, but critical things that we want to see when we're doing product road mapping is that we've thought about the features of a product pretty broadly. We've then gone and thought about where there's sort of high-level groups or logical groups for those. Either that, you develop these features together, they combine together to give some customer benefit or some business benefit. So if you're road mapping and you're working from a business perspective, you might have some, development goal, like a quarterly goal. We want to grow customers. That's our focus. And so therefore, we focus on product features that would help the product grow customers, either by being more appealing or being more accessible. Conversely, additionally, or instead of, sometimes we do that from a customer perspective, and we think about, this is the way the customer wants to work, and so we're going to have a tranche or a stage of work across, mobile mobility, or we're going to do a stage across accessibility, and therefore, again, we group a whole bunch of stuff up in a sequence focused in on those organizational goals. In a perfect world, this links really well back to strategy. So we've actually done our strategic planning of the organization, we've done our alignment, and this is why it's sort of in this section. And there, because we have a clear strategy or need that we're trying to address through digital innovation, we then, line up the work we're doing against that strategy. We break up this group or these product features over some kind of timeline. Look, usually that's quarterly, for the scale of company that we're probably talking about in an insurer kind of thing. You could see half yearly, you could see monthly, for very, very agile, product development teams. But, the purpose of the assignment doesn't really matter. Pick some timeline and line up some features against that. And when you're doing this, and it's not so much pertinent to this assignment, but roadmaps are meant to be living artifacts, because when we're working, using an agile methodology like a Scrum or whatever, but then also because of the needs of the customer and the needs of the organization, features and strategy should be changing. So we should be reviewing this really regularly, and ideally it's actually a living document, linked to our product backlogs, that we then turn into sprints as we do agile product delivery. A few other considerations, particularly in the case of this assignment, we've done a proof of concept. We've spoken about a proof of concept here. So some of the thinking of that, should already kind of be done in your roadmap. We want to launch something as soon as we can in this product, in this roadmap. So, what's the minimum set of things we could put together, minimum viable product that we could launch to our customers and therefore start getting some value about? So consider what that could be. And then, don't be too aggressive with the timelines that we set here. Say in the case of insurers, we're talking usually pretty much everyone's assignments dealing with a reasonably big organization. And even the most mature of those, from an agile perspective, it's still, a technically complex environment that they're usually working inside. A regulatory framework that's also quite complicated, and therefore these things often take longer than we'd like to think they do. No particular way to show this again. Going by quarters and then putting some simple features is fine. Product board is a tool that lots of people use in this space. There's quite a lot of tools that do this sort of product road mapping. People use Jira quite regularly for this. Other kind of Kanban-like tools. Product board is probably one that's well known as as focused in this. This is how they do it in one of their options. So don't stress out about this. As I say, it's really get your time frame across the top, get some of your product features, and you'll be working at quite a high level. So yeah, this one's obviously quite a detailed level with very specific integrations. We don't need to worry about that for the level we're working in this assignment. So that is everything that I really wanted to cover tonight. We've gone through the resources. So really, I just want to open it up for Q&A. Happy to take that if you want to join. If you can get on the microphone, that's fine. But if you just want to type it into the box, I'll keep an eye on that too over the next few minutes.
There's no questions from me. It's Ryan.
Okay, Ron. Look, I think Carmel's probably not in a position to ask questions. So, so look, I think we're going to be wrapping up, to be honest with you. Thanks for joining, for those that could, especially thanks to Carmel, who's joined from the pre-show for the Elton John conference, by the concert by sound of things. Best of luck. If you have any concerns, you get into it, flick me an email or I'll post something on the study desk. And as I said at the start, just for Ryan a bit later, it's been a disrupted couple of weeks. So anyone's watching this and does need some support, please feel free to reach out. Right, we'll wrap it up. Thanks again, guys. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.